There's a lot of running going on in the Meridian area. What does it all mean? This man will tell you. On the Record starts right now. Hello, I'm John Johnson. Welcome to On the Record. Tim Irvine is race timer for an upcoming race that's coming up, marathon. It's called the Magnolia Marathon in Half. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are a runner yourself, and I say it's a lot of running going on in the Meridian area. That's true, isn't it? There's been a lot of stuff happening.
There, since 2012, we've seen really kind of a running boom. I guess most of it started around 2010, but it really picked up steam in 2012, and so many races have been added, not just in the Meridian area, really across the state, but in the Meridian area, we've really seen a huge increase in the amount of 5Ks and just races in general that have popped up.
What's you are an analyzer. You watch things very carefully. He also is a member of the staff here at this station, production. What do you think the cause might be that this thing is beginning to take off in this area now?
I think there's a lot of contributing factors, but running booms go in cycles. I've been running so long that I definitely remember the last one, which was back in the 80s. It was huge, and I was still kind of very early in the running world back then, but I remember the excitement and energy that was surrounding it, and it kind of plateaued for a while, and then, but to answer your question, I think the thing that that attributed to it this time was more options. People have really gotten outside the box on types of races that they've put together. You saw the mud runs, the Warrior Dash, Spartan runs. Those kind of take off. There's glow runs now. There's color runs and foam runs. People have gotten quite creative on how they present a race now, and it's really given. It's kind of given options to folks who haven't maybe been interested in traditional running events. They say, well, here's a color run. That looks like fun. Let me go do that. And for the people who do that, they really enjoy it.
Yeah, so this, for a purist like you, that doesn't bother you at all, does it?
It doesn't bother me, no. I listen, anything to open the door to the sport for people. And not everyone's going to be a competitive runner, but, what if someone can get out of the sport something that means a lot to them, then they've really accomplished their goal. I've worked with cross-country kids a lot, and the one thing that I always tell them is, don't show up to a race trying to beat other people. Race the watch. Right. Because that you're really only racing yourself. I mean, truly. I mean, running is a very personal accomplishment. When you reach your personal records, it really is. So, but it's one of the things that's been with me just about my entire life.
Tim Irvine has been a really, really, really good runner, and a lot of people in the running world know that. You've done this for years, and what from Bogalusa, Louisiana to the run, what got you into this thing called running?
It was such a strange trip for me to get to running. 1978, I was at a 4th of July parade in my hometown of Bogalusa, and I was just a kid. I didn't know anything about running. I had no clue. But it was really strange, as right before the parade came, a whole bunch of people come running through the parade route. And I was just intrigued by it. And I looked up at my dad and I said, what are they doing? And he said, well, that's the Bogalusa Striders. They're having a race today. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's neat. Then I saw a kid my size run by, and it was just like this competitive fire just ignited inside of me. And I'm thinking, I can do that. Yeah. The next year I was in that race. And that's where it all started for me.
Tell us a little bit about the marathon that's here, and there are different races and different ways of doing these things, but the Magnolia Marathon in Half started when, and how long have you been going with this?
Well, this is the 5th year, so we started about 5 years ago. It all came out of an idea that the Lions Club, the Meridian Lions Club and Leo Club, which was their kind of sub, for the kids. They started it as a project, and they came to us. Running had been doing quite well in the Meridian area, but when you talk about a marathon and a half marathon, that's a little different animal, because there are so many moving parts. There's so much logistics that have to go into it to pull it off and make it successful. And I'm almost embarrassed to say I was very skeptical that this could even work in the Meridian area.
Why was that?
Just because the terrain is so hilly here. It's a difficult race course. It definitely is a challenge. We have beautiful terrain here. It's just very hard from a competitive standpoint. You're not going to run your fastest times on this course. I mean, it's an accepted thing.
So you thought maybe it may scare away some of the novices. Is that right?
I did. I didn't know how the race might be embraced, and but they were adamant about wanting to do it. I mean, we literally, I won't say we. I was on the side of let's talk them into something a lesser distance, but they were very adamant about wanting to do it, and I think they would have gone ahead without our input and help. But we decided to get on board and help them. Again, I was very skeptical whenever we first started this, when Tommy brought the idea to us. But as we got into it, I began to see the commitment that they had, that they really wanted to make this work, that they were doing all kind of work to connect the community and bring all the resources together to make this happen. So, I got on board pretty early there. I wasn't supposed to time the race originally. We were going to hire a different timer, but it just worked out better having me do it since I was local. Quite frankly, I had never timed a marathon before, and I was a little nervous about that in the beginning. But Tommy and I had a couple of conversations, and he really wanted me to do it. So I took it on, and I'm really glad I did, because it's turned out to be a wonderful thing.
So as you look at this one coming up, this is coming up when?
This is coming up on November 19th. It's next weekend. And again, this is the 5th version. The race was originally called Leo Run to Remember. Right. And we decided after year 3 that just based on the feedback we were hearing from the race and looking at the statistics from who was coming to our races, and it turned out there's a thing called the 50 States Club. So what that is you have a lot people from all over the country and all over the world, for that matter, who they pick a race in each state, and they want to be able to run a marathon in every state of the United States. And so our race kept turning out to be the race that a lot of people were choosing to do that for Mississippi. So we wanted to embrace that approach of the race and give it a Mississippi identity. It just, with Leo Run to Remember, great name, it's just no one really connected with it.
Right.
But we felt like, with Mississippi being the Magnolia State, the Magnolia flower, there was so much of a connection that we could work with to help market the race better as the Magnolia Marathon and Half. And so that was really the whole line of thought for changing the race name.
So when we come back, I want to take a break and come back and talk a little bit about how different terrains affect different kinds of races. This is hilly, the Gulf Coast is not.
Right.
So we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Tim Irvine is with us, and we were talking about the Magnolia Marathon. What does it take to run a marathon? You run a few, and what does it take to run that kind of a race?
It definitely takes dedication. It takes a commitment. It's not just a 6-week program. I mean, the first marathon that it's funny, as long as I've been running, I never ran a full marathon until 2009. I ran a half marathon in 1992 and won the race ran a great time, and never wanted to run that far again for a race. It was an interesting experience. It was so cold, but so I did not find it in myself to go down the marathon path until later in life, and so when I began training, I mean, I literally made the decision. It was about 6 months out for me for the first one. You don't have to train for 6 months, but it's a good idea to get your body in a certain place before you start adding on all these miles. You have to build up the muscles around your bones, otherwise you're going to deal with stress fractures and just really nagging injuries through the whole process.
So as you look at different places, as I said, there are different areas of the state, or different areas that you run. How do you train for that? And one is humid, one area is hilly, as you say here, one maybe the Gulf Coast, for example.
Right, you know, the marathon more than any other race, I believe, including the half marathon, it's a scientific experience. You can dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and then something go wrong on race day that you didn't predict would happen. It happens all the time. It happens to people who've run multiple ones. One of my friends, Chuck Engel, who's kind of an online personality, the marathon junkie, even he has a bad day, and he's been known to run 3 marathons in a single week. I mean, but
how do you do that? My goodness.
I'm not sure. I don't know that I'll would ever want to get there, but you could, you know, you really have to prepare as much as you can. And one of the things that people really harp on is, you know, don't try anything new on race day. You know, do what you've been training to do, and that doesn't just include running. That includes what you wear, how you wear, the food you eat, when you eat. You know, you really have to condition your body into a cycle so that it's prepared to repeat that cycle on race day. And where a lot of people go wrong is, you know, they'll show up having never had a certain supplement, and on race day, hey, let me try this. And it doesn't agree with their stomach very well, and next thing you know, their race is just going downhill fast.
As we've got a couple of minutes left in this segment, someone's watching this show and they say, well, I would like to do this. I don't know where to begin. What do you tell them? There's
a lot of online training programs that you can get. We have them on the magnoliamarathon.com website. There is there is a marathon training program there, but you could really Google marathon training programs, and there's a lot of different options out there. If you find one that works better for you, of course, you know, if you're real serious about it and you want to hire a coach, there are options out there as well for that. But really, a good online training program. A lot of them are very similar. A lot of them are catered to the pace you want to run and the time you want to achieve.
And so you're not running against someone else. You always say, you stress that, don't you?
Yes.
You're running the clock, or you're running against yourself.
It's all about personal achievement. Yeah. I mean, because let's face it, I mean, the people at the top are really, listen, if it turns out you can run that fast, all better. But really, most people are just, they're out there for them. They're kind of in their bubble the whole race, this is an accomplishment for them.
And what physical challenges should you avoid?
Well, you should definitely avoid, as I said before, physical challenges. Well, you don't want to overdo it. I mean, you definitely want to taper down heading into the race. A few years ago, I think it was 2010, I ended up running a 10K 2 weeks before my second marathon and pulled a hamstring. I was able to still run the race, but it did hinder my performance in the marathon.
Take a break, and we'll talk a little bit about where these runners come from and why they come to Meridian, because it's a good story.
Absolutely.
We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. more information on the race that's coming up. So again, the date for that is
November 19th.
And so, when you where do you go? Where's the trail from finish?
The race
finish?
the race begins at Northeast Park in Meridian, and it's going to trek all the way into the downtown area, kind of thread through downtown Meridian, up 22nd Avenue, out Poplar Springs Drive, really kind of through the heart of the city, which is really neat, especially through the Poplar Springs Drive area, because it's so beautiful this time of year through there, with just the weather, the leaves. People always comment on the houses through there. It's one of the things we hear, but yeah, we love it, and it goes back out through Northeast Park, and eventually ends back through the North Hills area, and eventually ends up back at Northeast Park.
And so it's a very safe run because law enforcement's out there to make sure that cars don't come through in certain areas.
I could not say enough how important their role has been to the success of this race. They have done such a phenomenal job, and I'm talking about the Meridian Police Department, the Lauderdale County Sheriff's Department, even Highway Patrol. The way that they have embraced and helped this race flourish is just unbelievable, and we owe a great deal of success of this race to them, because really without them it could not be possible. They do a fantastic job.
They tell me that support is extremely important to runners, and it's important to the race day. When people are running 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 miles, and they see somebody saying, clapping, that really helps a lot.
It does. The marathon can be such a mind game, and especially the further you get into it, the more you start talking to yourself in your head and trying to tell yourself it's okay to stop if you want to. But there's something that ignites in you when you see someone out clapping and cheering you on, something that you don't know, just some stranger on there, and they're applauding your effort, and it makes you very proud of what you're doing, and so you're able to find another gear and keep going. We always ask that people come out as much as possible and get on the race course and just cheer the folks on. You want to take a few minutes out of your time. If you happen to see the runners coming by, pull over and get out and clap for them. It means a lot.
You've got some awards here, and people will win some medals, and tell us about the...
We do. Every year we try to add something different. Last year, as we changed the name of the race to the Magnolia Marathon, we wanted to, put something into the race that was so unique to this race that I won't say you can't get it anywhere else, but you weren't getting it anywhere else. And that's our medals is actual magnolia wood. And Mr. Colwall is our local craftsman who cuts these up. We bought a branding iron, and we brand the logo right into the wood. And then of course each distance and event has its own ribbon. But these, last year we did this for the first time, and we weren't sure how they were going to be received. It was just rave reviews. We get so many people from across the country. We've had 4 international runners in the history of the race so far, and it's amazing how when they can come here and get something they're not able to get anywhere else, it means so much more. So this is one of our niches right here, is our wooden magnolia wood medals.
How many are you expecting to participate in this year's race?
We are looking to top 300 this year.
Wow.
The race numbers had been down for a couple of years. Last year when we changed the name to remarket the race, it did help, and they started going back up. This year we changed our strategy and opened up race registration earlier in the year. We've been promoting it with special discount codes all through the year, and right now we're tracking well ahead of where we ended up last year. So we're on pace to go just north of 300 this year. So we're very happy about that, and we're hoping to grow it.
And where do they come from?
They come from all over. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the Magnolia Marathon has found its way to becoming in the 50 States Club, and the Marathon Maniacs. So everyone wants to mark Mississippi off. That's another interesting thing. Most of the people that come to our race, they're not repeats. You know, with the exception of the local support that we get, the people who are from here that runs our races,
right.
And we certainly appreciate that. But the out-of-town people that we get, this is their first time to run this race almost every year, because they come, they mark off Mississippi off their list, and then they don't come back.
We're going to take a break, come back and wrap this up. Thanks very much.
Absolutely.
November 19th, that is next Saturday here in Meridian, Magnolia Marathon and half. And what you need to know if you want to get involved with that race, either as a participant or as a volunteer.
Well, if you haven't signed up yet, you still can at magnoliamarathon.com. We offer personalized bibs for the second year in a row.
Wow.
We started this last year and it was a huge hit, so we want to keep doing it. The deadline for getting your name on your race number is already passed, but you can still sign up at magnoliamarathon.com, and there is a paper entry. There will not be race day registration, but if you come to packet pickup the day before, you can register there in person, but no race day registration.
So is this fun? Is this a fun thing to do for you and for those who come and be a part of this?
I really enjoy it, and we have such a awesome bunch of volunteers who help out with this race. We have a race committee who are so selfless and giving of their time, who come out, and we all just collectively want to see this thing succeed, and I'm proud to be a part of that bunch.
And it is succeeding, and this is, am I correct, this is the only marathon in Meridian? There are other races, but not...
Right. It's the only marathon or half marathon in Meridian.
So as I'm watching you now and seeing that you are this great runner, and I know that you are, someone wants to do this for themselves, what should they do to get involved with that?
Well, if you're not in shape to actually run the marathon, but you want to volunteer, you can certainly come out and volunteer with us and see what it's all about. That's how a lot of people get into the marathon, is just by being exposed to it.
Race time is what time?
7 a.m. on Saturday morning, Northeast Park. Arrive early, so plenty of parking. It's going to be fun.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time for being here.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you again next week. Have a great one.